Alright folks, today we're going to can some beans. We're going to be canning some great northern beans, but you can can any kind of beans. Pinto beans, kidney beans, lima beans. They all work pretty much the same, but larger beans like lima beans and kidney beans, you'll need to add about an additional 50% of beans. So we'd be adding a half a cup of beans to these jars. We're going to do the northern beans, but you would do about 3/4 of a cup per pint for a larger bean like a lima or a kidney bean. Is typically how it works out for me. But this is a great, easy thing to do. These process the same times as like many other things like meat. So if you got some extra room in the canner, you can always put some beans in. Now this process is not a USDA approved process. They have you soak them overnight and boil them and then put them in the jars. What we're going to be doing is just rinsing them off really good and putting them in the jars dry and letting them cook in the jar while they're in the pressure canner. It's just a quick, fast, easy way to do it, and a lot of people do it this way, and I've not had any problems in the years that I've done it this way. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of show you how I do this. I'm just going to wash my little strainer here. And we're going to start just by rinsing these beans really good. I'm going to grab a bowl and wash it. This is from my carrots. So I'm going to start by just putting the beans in this bowl. If you see any bad ones here, you can pick them out. There's a bad one. But mostly we just want to wash them off real good. So I'm just, washing them around. Because there's always going to be some dirt and dust in these things, no matter what. So I'm just going to rinse them. But there's a bad one. There's a good one that fell. And I'll fill it up with water again. Well, this is just how I do it. Other people do it different. There's a bad one. And this is just sort of warm water. It's not real cold water or anything. Now you can see that water's coming out pretty clear. It's got a little, I have a lot of calcium in my water, so it looks a little cloudy, but that's clear. So now I'm just gonna scoop some of these out and just rinse these through the strainer real good. Alright. And basically that's what I'll do, is I'll just work out of my strainer a little at a time here. So now we're just going to pack these jars. I mean, this is really simple. Let me wash my measuring cup. Let me over this side. I want to get soap in my beans. Okay. And for pints, we just want to do a half a cup of beans in the bottom of the jar. So we're just going to measure this guy up to the 1/2 mark, which is this mark right here, and I'll just grab some. That's way too many. And it's weird. You think this isn't a lot of beans, but this, once they expand and cook, will fill up this entire jar. You just have to kind of be as close as you can. Better to err a little on the low side because you don't want them to get all expanded past what the jar can hold. That could get ugly. And let me grab my jar funnel. Like that. Take our beans, pour them in. That's an old jar right there. Oh, hang on. I gotta scoop them up in my cup. I can tell that's too many. Spread out about a half cup. Now, a lot of my jars are different ages and sizes and stuff, but if you have one of these jars here that have the measuring thing on the side, you could just see where the half cup took it to and fill the other ones up that much. But I kind of like measure them ahead of time because you don't have to try to empty them out if you put too many in the jar. Okay, so I got them all full. I had 3 beans left over. There we go. Alright. So now all I gotta do is fill these up with some nice hot water. Got some of these lids, it's hard to find any right now, and I'm down to like my last 5,000, so I was trying to stock up a little bit. And I found these, and they say Orchard Road. Like, oh, that sounds all American. They're made in China. They're kind of flimsy, like those cheap Walmart mainstay lids. So it'll be interesting. I'd rather find out how they work now and when it's not an emergency and know. So I'm going to put my lids into soak. I'm just going to put like, I've got one wide mouth. I have to get a wide mouth lid out. And let me get a wide mouth lid. Alright, so got my wide mouth lid soaking in the dishwater here. I'm just taking my super duper hot Scald You in a half a second tap water. If your water's not this hot, you might want to heat some up on the stove. This water's pretty darn hot. I just put it in here, and then we're just going to go and fill these up to 1 inch of headspace, which is this right at the bottom of where the band would go, this little lip right here. If you want to, you can put some salt and stuff in these. I just salt them when I take them out. But if you use salt, you can use regular table salt or any kind of salt. It just might discolor the liquid and make it cloudy. Like, especially table salt has anti-caking agents in it. If you just get some canning salt, or kosher salt would work as well. It's pretty pure, but not necessarily as healthy for you as a sea salt. I use Redmond's. So I'll just salt them when I get them out and make whatever I'm making. I'm happy just sprinkling salt on them. Now what I'll do is just go in here. Oh, hot. I'm just going to kind of take and stir these around a little, make sure there's no air down in here. A lot of people will pick floaters out. You don't need to. They'll be fine. The floaters just have a little air in them, but it'll work its way out when they rehydrate. So I'm just going to look and see if any of them need any more water. Maybe just a couple of them need a tiny bit more. I saw a couple bubbles. The rest of those are perfect. Okay. So now all I'm going to do is just pull my lids out and start stacking them on. Even though those rings are pretty clean, beans can be one of the finicky ones to not want to seal. So I'm just going to make sure there's no bean residue anywhere on my rings. Like sometimes carrots and stuff, I don't worry too much about it, as long as it's look clean. But we just want to make sure there's nothing in here that's going to interfere with our seal. The bean juices kind of come up, and if they're siphoning, it can really cause the seal to fail. I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of these don't seal, and that's fine. We'll just eat them. There's the Orchard Grows. And that even fits kind of funny. I don't know. We'll see what happens. The ball lids are definitely a lot nicer. Oh, I need the big one. I need the big one. There it is. I typically like to use narrow mouth lids just because the lids are cheaper. And I kind of save my wide mouth for like pickle wedges and stuff that are harder to fit in a narrow mouth jar, but that's what came up in the bucket of jars in the basement. Yeah. Okay, so now we just want to tighten them up pretty good. Again, I'm not just doing fingertips because my hands are all wet and greasy or slippery, but we'll just tighten these up pretty good. Jars are pretty hot. Alright, so now we're ready to put some water in a pressure canner and get this thing going. Alright, so I've got my canner, got my rack down in here. I've washed it out, so I'm just going to put some water in here. Probably put about 3/4 of a gallon of the hottest water I got. Alright, put some hot water. About another 1/4 gallon. Alright, we'll go ahead and turn my flame on. And we're just ready to start putting the jars in. Water's getting pretty high up on the jars there. Might take a little bit back out. That might be a little much water. Alright, so now I'm just going to go ahead and put the cover on the pressure canner. Like so. And then we'll let this heat up until it vents. Alright, so my canner's been venting for 10 minutes. That makes sure that there's no air in there so that it's all steam inside the canner, which is what you want to keep the pressure and temperatures right. Cancel that, and then we're just going to go ahead and let it come up to pressure here. The nice thing about this little Presto with the thick aluminum is it's fast. It steams, it comes up to steam in 5-10 minutes. It'll come up to pressure here in like less than 5 minutes, and it'll cool down fast too. The bigger, thinner Presto, newer canner that I have, it takes a lot longer, but it holds a lot more too. Alright, so it's been exactly 3 minutes and my little weight is dancing. Turn the heat down just a hair more. About where I want it. Then these need to process for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Alright, here we go. Now we're just going to let that cook for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Alright, it's been 1 hour and 15 minutes. Kill the timer. And kill the heat. And we'll let this cool down. Alright, so I'll go ahead and be all ready to open. I'm just gonna take the lid loose, like so. I'm gonna kind of go like that, let it steam a little. Get my jar lifter. I'm just gonna open it up like so. These are real nice hot jars. Those nice beans. That little tiny bit of beans just completely fills up the jar. We can just let those cool.